Hey guys, Mike and Sean here. We're in Chopper's Hatchet House in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. We figured with the National Axe Throwing Championship coming up in February, we would come down here and give you guys some tips on how to take your axe throwing game to the next level.
So one of the first things you want to look into when you're trying to take your game to the next level is moving on from one of your entry-level axes onto something that is a little bit different and a little more suited to your throwing style. Alright, so our first axe up, entry level, is this Shop Pro 1.5 pound head, 14-inch handle. The pros about this one are it's cheap, it's pretty durable, and it's pretty readily available. It's one of the most used axes at NATF facilities. Cons are, it's cheap. And also when you get them, the consistency of the profile, whether it be the size of the blade or the fatness, they're going to change from one to the next, so it takes a little bit of work to get them where you want it to throw. Second up on our entry-level axes are these Valleys. Pretty much the same as the Shop Pros, same pros and cons. The only difference is these have a 16-inch handle for people that like a little bit longer.
Alright, now that we've gone over the entry-level axes, we're going to go over some better options and why you would want to switch. So once you figure out your throw and you know exactly how your axe is landing, you can better decide what kind of axe you're going to want to switch to. If you find that your axe is under rotating and you're landing like this, something like this with a curved blade is going to be a really good option for you. It's going to cause this weight here to drive that axe forward, and it's going to go in even if you do under rotate like that. So if you find that your axe is over rotating and landing like this, that's going to mean that one of these straight blades with a 90-degree angle is going to be a perfect option for you. When this goes into the board, it's going to drive right in, and that is going to stop it. This weight is going to push that tip in, and it is going to stop. It's not going to roll or move at all. This is going to be a great option if you're landing like that. If you're looking for more information on any of these axes, check out our top 5 axes under $50 video. We go into these axes in a lot of detail and talk about exactly why they might be a good option for you. So once you join a league and you're getting really serious about competition, you're going to want to get your own big axe. Having your own big axe makes a huge difference. When you're throwing the same axe every time, you're going to get down that consistency and you're going to get really good at throwing that same axe. While there are some cheap options out there online, I personally prefer to look for a head somewhere on eBay, Etsy, something like that, so that I can get something that matches the exact profile that I want. This is a 2.5 pound plumb head, and it works perfect for me. If you're looking for a couple handle options that will work really well for an NATF axe head, you should look at househandles.com. They have a couple options of different shapes, different lengths, and you'll be able to find something that really works for you. Now that we've gone over picking a new axe to fit your throwing style, we're going to cover some simple adjustments you can make to your throw that are going to really take your throw to the next level. One of the first things that you're going to want to look at is your position of where you're standing and the position of where you're holding the axe. It's really important to figure out the exact position that works for your type of throw so your axe is landing the right way every single time. The two main ways that most people hold their axe is either with the tip of the blade pointed at the board, which is good for a straight blade because it's going to cause that front tip to go in first, or someone who's got their axe square to the board. This is typically better with someone with a curved blade because that's going to cause it to land more flat more often.
So your next adjustment is going to be the strength of your throw. When you're doing your step, if you tend to take a very large step, you're going to need to throw it a little bit harder than normal so your axe makes that rotation. If you take a very short step, you can throw your axe lighter and let the weight of the axe take on the rotation. So the last major adjustment that you can make, which goes off of your strength of throw, is your aim. When you're taking a larger step and you're throwing it harder, you can mostly just aim right at where you want it to land. Now, if you're taking that shorter step with a lighter throw, you're often going to have to aim slightly above where you actually want the axe to land. A major part of taking your game to the next level is consistency, and what I like to call it simplifying your throw. So the first part of simplifying your throw is your step. You want your step to be as natural as possible. You don't want to be taking a step that's larger than normal or smaller. You want to take as natural a step as you normally do so that it goes to the same exact spot every time. So the next part of simplifying your throw is having a very relaxed starting point and using the least amount of energy from the point of your step until the release of that axe. So the last point of simplifying your throw is remembering your release point and the distribution of weight on your follow-through. When you take that step, you always want to make sure that you're going to release at the same point and having all of your weight stop on that front foot. That way your motion doesn't continue to move forward. So mastering the clutch is going to be a huge part of taking your game to the next level. So for me, mastering the clutch all comes down to your starting position. Normally I start with my back foot about 6 inches behind the back of the blue line. Now for the clutch, I start with it right at the edge of that back line. My starting position on my axe is higher. That way when I come through, I can be just as accurate on that clutch as I am the bullseye. So one of the big pitfalls in your axe game could be transitioning from the big axe back to your normal axe. Because of the differences in weight, oftentimes after you're done the big axe and you get back into the next round, your regular axe is going to be landing high. So something that we picked up on from our northern brothers in Canada, Cappuccino and Shooter, is before they start that next round, they do a few shadow throws with their regular axe. That way they can acclimate back to that head weight and get back on point for that bullseye.
So one skill that can definitely come in handy is being able to pull out a big axe clutch. Sometimes in competition, when you get to the really high levels of competition, people are going to be able to hit that 5 every single time. If you know you're up against someone who's throwing a 5 with their big axe every single throw, sometimes it might be better to just go for that clutch. For me, I try to line up directly in line with the clutch so that I'm not having to throw it at any sort of angle or anything like that. I stand a little bit closer than I do at my normal spot, and I'm going to line it up a little, try and aim a little bit lower than the clutch.
One of the most important things every axe thrower needs to learn is not to get in your own head. One bad shot is not a call for an adjustment. Stick with your normal throw, and don't worry too much about what the other person is doing. Don't even look at their board. Worry about your own board and your own shot.
Speaking to that, make sure you don't get pressured into going for a shot that you're not confident in. If you're playing against someone who you know is pretty solid at throwing clutch, and they try to call you out at a clutch off, and you know you're not that confident in it, I would say go for that 5. Stick with what you know you're good with. One way that Mike and I have continued to take our game to the next level is by always playing against people who we know are going to be a challenge for us. That means joining a league with some really tough opponents, or just setting up a tournament with the people who you know are going to give you a run for your money.